Hello and welcome everybody to my 2024 NFL Mock Draft 1.0. This is going to be my first official mock draft as now we have 28 teams that are locked into their draft position. So going to be going over quickly the prospects and the relative choices that I would pick for each team and what I think that their main goals should be going into the draft. But if you want to learn more about these prospects, make sure you go check out my 2024 NFL Draft Board video, which is on this. It goes more into depth on the prospects that I don't love to go too much into detail on in these mock drafts for time-wise sake. But with that being said, let's get into my mock draft 1.0. And I think for the first overall pick, I was originally in the realm of not wanting the Chicago Bears to move on from Justin Fields just yet. But I think that after the last couple of games, I think that should be the decision that the organization is going to end up making. They fired Luke Getsy. They're hiring a new offensive coordinator. And overall, I think Justin Fields still has potential. I think that they could ship him off probably for, it depends on the deal they're going to get. I think they're going to trade him regardless, actually. But I think they might fetch a second-round pick or a third-round pick for him. But the productivity overall wasn't there, and they're resetting the contract market for the next 4 years. And then obviously Caleb Williams, we've heard him a ton. He, in my opinion, is the best quarterback prospect. I have Drake May slightly under him. But make sure you tune into that Caleb Williams prospect breakdown video, probably in around a week or two. And then for the Washington Commanders, the obvious pick is going to be Drake May. They need a quarterback. And they're going to hire a new coach as well, maybe Eric Bieniemy. And Drake May fits that Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen style of just, using his legs and using his arm for creativity. Moving on to the New England Patriots, I think that they're going to end up taking quarterback regardless. Bill Belichick is already out as head coach. Gerard Mayo was just hired. And I think that if they don't end up with a quarterback in this draft, they maybe in the second round, if they want to go with a guy like JJ McCarthy. I think JJ McCarthy is a second round guy. I know he did declare, but if they do want to go into later rounds, fine, whatever. Wait until next year until you're probably bad again and get the higher selection. You'll get the Drake May or Caleb Williams of next year. But I think that Jaden Daniels is a perfectly good prospect to take within the first top 10 picks, maybe not as high as 3. I think that is a bit of a reach for Jaden Daniels. I'll go more into detail about him when I break him down in around a few weeks, probably after the Super Bowl. But then for the Cardinals, I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. His breakdown will be on Thursday or Friday of this week. And Marvin Harrison is my best player in this draft class. I think that he's a future Pro Bowler. Potentially all-pro at the wide receiver position. I really think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of the next really high-level wide receivers and could come out, very well. And I think this is an excellent addition for Kyler Murray, giving him a very good wide receiver 1. And then for the Chargers, I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors, the most explosive wide receiver out of this draft class. He was number 1 in receiving yards. I think he's still number 1 on it. I do not know if Rome Odunze passed him. Oh, no, he did. So he's second, but he was first in the regular season in yards and explosive, plays within the slot in the X, really fast off of the line of scrimmage, really fast just overall. I hope he goes to the combine and runs the 40 so we can get a relative time, but his game speed is super high. And I think that's a great addition for the Chargers. Who really, after Keenan Allen leaves, which I think he's getting injured a lot over the past 3 years. Once Keenan Allen leaves, they're going to need a predecessor. It's not going to be Quentin Johnson, and it's definitely not going to be Mike Williams. I think they need a better, dominant slot receiver who can be a consistent deep threat. So that's a great selection at 5. And then for the Giants, the debate over quarterback for them, it really depends on who's on the board. If Jaden Daniels doesn't go, I think that the Giants should take him. But if he's gone, you might as well take the next best option, which is, I think, Rome Odunze out of Washington. His over-the-shoulder catch, that's his signature move, bro. He did that so much in the postseason. Secure hands, good route runner, again, fast. and he's got X receiver size at 6'3", 215 pounds. Like, he's another one of the complete receivers in this class. There are three absolutely top tier receivers in this class that I think could all go as early as 6, back to back to back. In this scenario, I think that they minimum all go top 10. This is really good top level of the wide receiver class and quarterback class, I would say. But the debate over Daniel Jones, it depends on if he's ready to even start day one, and if you think that Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. is going to be a better option right out of the gate instead of Rome Odunze. The Giants really don't have a wide receiver one, and you add him immediately. For the Tennessee Titans, I'm definitely going to go with Joe Alt. They drafted Peter Skronsky last year and moved him to guard, so they don't really have a true right tackle. Andre Dillard allowed the most sacks in the league, I think second only to Mekhi Becton. Joe Alt, I think, is a stalwart left tackle. He's 2 back-to-back 90 PFF grades, which is very rare. Only 5 pressures, something like that, allowed. He was a 2-time All-American. And it helps solve the offensive line kind of issue because they're one of the worst offensive lines in the league. For Malik Willis, or not for Malik Willis, he's the backup. For Will Levis to be, they already drafted him. He started for like 8 games. He's going to be the next guy up. They don't need to worry about anything other. I would have hoped that wide receiver would have fallen into their lap. I think Rome Odunze, if Alt is not on the board, would be the guy that they would definitely go because he would be the next selection here. And then for the Falcons, I am going to go with... I really debated on this for a while because the Falcons are going to either... It really depends on who's actually their coach. It really does depend on who's the coach because they can either sign somebody in free agency and either wait until next year or get a safety net, I guess, quarterback, somebody they can just throw in there and it'll be productive. Or they can go out and basically overdraft one of these quarterbacks. So it does depend. But I'm going to go in the realm of they're taking quarterback no matter what. They're in a win now scenario. If the Bucs don't improve, because I think the Bucs will have a slower decline as guys like Mike Evans, Levante David get older. As soon as those guys start declining, I think that the Falcons have a window, and I think they're just as talented now. If a guy like Ben Johnson comes to the Falcons, that's a crazy rushing offense. I think that's immediately the best team in the NFC South. And if you want to add a guy like Bo Nix, who's super consistent and his efficiency numbers were like out of the top 5, his efficiency numbers were like the best. He was the most accurate intermediate quarterback. Like he would never hold the ball for too long. He was a 1-read strike or 1-2 strike. The age might defact you a little bit. He's been in college football since 2018. He's going to be 20. Oh man, he's going to be like 24 by the time he gets to the end. By the time he gets to the actual league. But I mean, the Falcons can definitely go with that option if they want to pick quarterback here. And he's also good on the ground. And he's also sturdy built. I wouldn't assume he would get injured. The biggest thing was the accuracy. That took a fifth, it went from 57 to 77 last year, which is a humongous sign of improvement. And then for the Bears, I'm just going to go with a fun pick. Brock Bowers is my 3rd rated prospect, but I think if anybody has the generational or should have the generational label in this class, it's Brock Bowers. The dude is almost, in my opinion, he could be a position changing tight end. He could change, he has the potential to change the actual position of tight end because he had 5 rushing touchdowns on 20 carries in his career. He was 3-time All-American, 2-time national championship, 2-time John Mackey Award, the only tight end that ever did that, to win it twice. And then he was such a phenomenal, he's very fast. He's incredible yards. He led the FBS in yards after catch every year of his career. And the tools that he possesses he's a 4.4 guy at tight end at 6'4", 240. He's basically a big slot who's just going to go out there and wreck the game. And you could just use him as an overall just offensive weapon. And I think for the Bears, you add Caleb Williams, you immediately give him a guy that you could just target in every single drive. You could just get him into the middle of the field, or you can run him out on a bootleg, and it's going to do well. I know you'll say Cole Kmet, but Cole Kmet is like, why can't you run 12 personnel? I think that was a thing that I saw last year with like Kincaid. Like I was drafting Kincaid to like teams like the Bills, who ended up drafting him, and I was like, why don't you run 12 personnel? Kincaid is one of those guys like Brock Bowers where he's a receiving threat, and he did great this year. He was good in the playoffs too. But Brock Bowers is like a step above him, and I think with Bowers coming into the league, I think he has the potential to be like definitely a future All-Pro at the position. And I mean, why wouldn't you take like the next Travis Kelce or the next George Kittle or TJ Hawkinson in like the top 10, especially when you have a rookie quarterback and when you have DJ Moore, add a second, really like add your second option on that offense, and then Cole Kmet's your third. They do need wide receiver. I would recommend Brock Bowers, really. He's really like a wide receiver if you're taking it. Just got to put your mind out of that tight end label, I would say. And then for the New York Jets, if you're not coming out of this class with a tackle or a wide receiver, honestly, you really did fail. The Jets were the worst. Jets were like they had like the most offensive linemen play. They had like 14 individual linemen play for like 3 games, I think it was. The Jets have no left tackle. I don't think they're going to pursue Mekhi Becton in free agency. And Olufasanu, very solid guy, very solid, sturdy run blocker as well. He's 6'6", 319, and he plays with a good amount of strength. The only thing that I had a gripe that I saw last season was his ability against pure bull rushers and really strong edge rushers. Like a guy like JT Tuimoloau is a good example. But Olufasanu plays well, and you need a tackle because you don't have any. So basically, that should be the selection. For the Minnesota Vikings, this has been a super tough one. Doing mock drafts in general, I have overall thought that their move should be quarterback no matter what, but it's really the question of what kind of Kevin O'Connell wants to do with his system. Justin Jefferson, I think he stays. It depends on if they want to move up for a quarterback and just jump up the board, try to get Jaden Daniels, like a guy that's going to be a threat on the ground and is going to be a great deep thrower, or they want a guy that's like he's still in the pocket and he'll make the right reads, and he'll still be a great thrower. Get the ball to Justin Jefferson, and Michael Penix is more of that guy. The only gripe I have with Michael Penix Jr. is his pocket mobility is good, but his speed is not. He's not a threat on the ground at all. He'll get the first down. He'll move in the pocket a ton. I think that's a very high positive that with Michael Penix Jr. But he's not really a threat on the ground as a runner. And he will forego the check down sometimes for the big play. And I think for the Vikings, it's kind of a little bit of their style. But Kirk Cousins was a consistently accurate quarterback. And I don't know if their system would love Michael Penix Jr. However, I think that they need quarterback regardless. If they want to bring back Kirk Cousins for a year, they're going to be in the same scenario that they've been the last couple of years with him, which is good, but like mediocre. Like they won't win any really important games. Like they were a one and done in the playoffs, even though they won 13 games. So yeah, but I think Michael Penix Jr., very solid quarterback for that system, but it really depends on if Kevin O'Connell agrees and whether if they want to move up for quarterback. For the Broncos, I've also struggled with them because they don't have like, other than quarterback, I guess, because they now definitely need a quarterback. I think that their second biggest need is wide receiver, honestly, but I would not take a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. this high. Overall, they just kind of need offense, but I'm going to go with Le'Veon Bell, give them a true 3-down edge rusher. Le'Veon Bell, 15 sacks. Third in pressures, maybe not third now after the college football playoffs, but I mean 96.3 PFF grade. They really did inflate him, but 25% pass rush win rate is good. He got better as a run defender over last year, and I think he's a very solid over down to down, every down edge rusher. The second guy that I would take is either Dallas Turner. I think Dallas Turner is also a good edge rusher, good speed off of the line. He's got a good pass rush moves and a pass rush plan. However, he's not a powerful edge rusher. He's not super big as well. He's around like 240-ish. So the run defending aspect will decline a little bit there. But then for the Raiders, I also agree that this is a quarterback move. I think that Aiden O'Connell is like a fine option. He's whatever. I would rather them take a guy like Jerzon Newton, he's not my edge one, but I would also agree that Jerzon Newton will probably be drafted as the first interior defensive lineman in this class because he's overall a very solid edge rusher, 15% pass rush win rate, which is very high. Overall, very solid run defender as well. In 2022, he did have his best year, but this year he had 8 sacks. And then for the Raiders, I think that they really do need interior defensive linemen. The second move would probably be offensive line. And then for the Saints, I'm going to go with Taliesin Fuaga. They are having a big tackle problem because they lost Armstead 2 years ago. Ryan Ramczyk has a degenerative knee issue, which I found out thanks to the comments. And then Trevor Penning, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago, has just really not been good at all. And I think that they need a stalwart tackle. Taliesin Fuaga is my best right tackle, and he is the best run blocker in this class, in my opinion, because he is 334 and 6'6". He's a mauler in the run game. And then for the Colts, I would go with... It really depends on how you view the cornerback class. I'm a little lower on the cornerback class than other people are. I see guys like Terrion Arnold and Cooper DeJean as like very late first round picks and maybe like second round picks ideally, but they're going to be overdrafted because the cornerback class, or because cornerbacks are so in need because the wide receiver position has just gained so much talent in the last couple of years. So my move for them would be, I think, my favorite cornerback in the class, which is Nate Wiggins. More of a man coverage, more of a cover guy. He had a 44.4 passer rating allowed, 2 interceptions in 10 games. A little thinner than I thought, but he does play more of man. Clemson defense was really good. And overall, cover guy. The Colts, I think, definitely need to get better in coverage. They allowed a ton of yards through the air. And then for the Seattle Seahawks, I would go with probably edge here. I know that Boye Mafe had a really good year. And they added a bit of interior guys like Jermont Jones last offseason. Depends on what they do this offseason, as well as quarterback. But I'm not taking J.J. McCarthy for the Seattle Seahawks. As well as making a coaching change, they're gonna change systems. If this was like they really focused on cornerbacks and secondary moves in the past couple of years because that's obviously Pete Carroll's game, which is the cover 3, obviously Legion of Boom era. But with a new coach, depends on whether it's offense or defense. If it's offense, they're probably going to go with an offensive skill position player, probably offensive line or quarterback. And if they go with defense, I see them going with the defensive player, and this would be Dallas Turner. His pass rushing ability is great. Almost 20% pass rush win rate. True pass set grade was great. But the thing is the weight and the run stopping ability, 4.2 run stop rate, not great. He also is not a very powerful edge rusher. He more wins on either his moves or his speed off of the line or his bend around the edge. But he's not, or, cutting inside, or, basically trying to win one-on-one, not trying to win, not trying to overpower a defender, which is fine for an edge too. They already got Boye Mafe, who's a very solid edge rusher, so they would have a nice tandem there. And then for the Jaguars, I would go with, they were not a great run defending team. I don't think it really depends on how they view guys like it depends on how they view their secondary. I know that they didn't view it highly because they did fire their defensive coordinator. So it depends on what they want with, depending on cornerbacks. I would go with Byron Murphy Jr. I know that PFF had him as his 50th best guy, but Byron Murphy Jr. I think is I really do think he's a first round pick because 20% pass rush win rate is outlandish for a defensive lineman. That's super super high, especially for a guy that plays. He's a 2-eye and like a nose or like a 0 or a 1, and for that high productivity as a pass rusher, I know he had 6 sacks, but he was first in defensive lineman pressures. He also is a solid run defender as well at a 9.5 run stop rate, even at a 308 pounds, which is which is pretty thin for a nose tackle 2-eye. Especially at 6'1" as well, but he's a phenomenal pass rusher. And I think for the Jaguars, they would put him not at nose, but they would put him at the 3 tech or the 4-eye. And I think if they wanted to bump him a little out, I think that's fine. Because I think he's still going to win through the... He really works more on the left, so he would be on the quarterback's throwing hand. And that would be excellent, because he would just disturb the passer a ton. And then for the Bengals, I think this is pretty much you can only pick tackle here. It seems like every mock draft in like the last 2 to 3 years, I've always like tackle. Like they need to figure out an actual long-term option for tackle. Orlando Brown Jr. Not the best option. And J.C. Latham is a right tackle actually, so he would replace Jonah Williams, who's not really great. And I think that there would be a much long-term option. J.C. Latham, consistent guy, played pretty much his entire career at Alabama. Solid pass blocker, solid run blocker, good NFL size at 6'6", 335. Solid guy. That's pretty much should be their number one. If they want to move up, a fun move would them be moving up for Brock Bowers. I think if you wanted to add him to Joe Burrow, that would be a crazy combination. Speaking of that, I think that Sean McVay would actually be another phenomenal option for if they wanted to trade up for Brock Bowers. But, this is the Rams. They don't trade up. I actually see them trading down a good amount. Or, sorry, not a good amount, but a bit. I think that they would go... I think that the Rams would be dead set on probably cornerback or secondary. It depends on... Again, it depends on which one they like. There are 3 cornerbacks that I think are all in the exact same conversation with Cooper DeJean, Terrion Arnold, and Kool-Aid McKinstry. I would lean towards Cooper DeJean in this for the Rams because they play a lot. They play a ton of zone, and Cooper DeJean I think does also have the athleticism to do it. But more importantly, I would think that the Rams wouldn't force him into a slot role. Because, I think that the Rams definitely need boundary. And for Cooper DeJean, he's really going to get a ton of these like safety slot comps. And that's not true because he played safety or deep one time in his entire career. He played in the box 23 times and 91 in 2023. He played in the slot a bit more in 2022, but moved to a full boundary role in 2023. Like, he's a boundary cornerback. He's 6'1", like 195. He was a punt returner. He's super fast, and is definitely athletic enough to play the boundary. And I wouldn't want people to just force him into like, you're gonna go in the slot. Like, is he gonna really succeed in the slot? Is he quick enough? And that's why I would move him to more of like a true boundary role, which is his natural position. For the Steelers, I again also think that they need cornerback. In this area, I would go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Kool-Aid McKinstry is pretty much, I would say he's more of a man guy, but I also think he could definitely succeed in zone. Another boundary guy. I hope they don't force him into the slot as well. But they drafted Joey Porter Jr., who is your true traveler with the biggest X receiver. He's Porter was 6'2". He's a press man guy. And he played great as a rookie. But then you get Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is also a similar man cornerback, but however can also play it in zone and be well because Bama runs a hybrid. They run like man one side, zone one side. It's kind of like what the Jets do. And then the Jets also run cover four and then they go man first down. And I think for the Steelers, who are a decent coverage team, but they really do need a cover or a second cornerback, in my opinion. Go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. For the Miami Dolphins, I would really go with tackle here. It depends on what's going to happen with Teron Armstead. He gets injured a lot, and he's really not a consistent option there. Their offensive line was battered the whole year, really. Troy Fuatano is gonna be. I think he's gonna be pushed into the first round a lot because really good pass blockers are, pushed heavily. It's the most important thing. The Dolphins pass the ball a ton, obviously, but he is going to be a left tackle. He played left tackle his whole career. But the run blocking is the thing that I would kind of concerns me. He's a little light. He is lighter, 317. I think that's going to go down, and he is a little shorter. But that's the best left tackle available. I know they have Tommy Eichenberg on the right side. I don't know if he's got a contract coming up or something, but it really comes down to what's going to happen with Armstead in the offseason. And then if he stays, I would probably go with a secondary pick. I'd probably go with Terrion Arnold. And speaking of Terrion Arnold, I'm going with him to the Eagles. James Bradberry is cooked. Like he's like a fully rare steak. Like he was cooked for too long. And then Terrion Arnold is kind of like he reminds me a little bit of Pat Surtain, where he's like a big he's definitely not as big as Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain was like a 200+ pound cornerback coming out, and Terrion Arnold did play in the slot for the first I guess half of the year before moving out to the boundary. But again, another man cornerback, plays well as a run defender at 90.5 PFF grade. Also good at forcing incompletions. And 5 interceptions, 50 passer rating allowed. Solid cornerback. I think he'll go in the first round. I think I will have an early second round grade on him though. It's the kind of the speed thing for me. I think that if a faster receiver, it just could burn by him if Arnold loses off of the line. For the Houston Texans, this is the Cleveland pick. I would probably go with edge here or receiver. It depends on what they want to do with wide receiver 3. I know that Noah Brown played a good bit for the majority of the year. However, I would think that D'Amico Ryan, with his defensive mindset, would probably want to go with edge here. And I haven't picked. I always will slack on Jared Verse, because I do like this edge class. I'm going to be honest. I do like this edge class, but it's kind of hard for me to force these edge rushers to these teams because they kind of have other needs. And the edge class is top heavy. It's a bit of an interesting class because I think there were only 5 guys who I would select in the first 50 picks probably. And then a couple of guys I think will be reached. A good example would be Chop Robinson, is a guy that, and Jonah Ellis, those are second round guys in my opinion. Chris Braswell as well. A lot of those second round guys, and once the third round goes, the edge class is really top heavy this year. I feel like it was more balanced last year and then in 2021. But speaking about Jared Verse, I think he's overall just a solid edge rusher. He's got the size. He's the best power rusher in this class. And he uses speed to power. The one thing is the run stopping. It's better than Dallas Turner, but it's not better than a guy like Leia Tilatu or Braylon Trice. His run defending grade was 65.3. Run stop rate was 6.6. But overall, solid edge rusher. They got Will Anderson on the outside, who was just an overall beast as well. Put Jared Verse on there. It's going to be real difficult for your pass sets as well. And they already really solid. And with Derek Stingley having a breakout year, that kind of wipes off any secondary draft selections for them. For the Dallas Cowboys, they tried to address interior defensive linemen last year with Mozzie Smith, and he did not have a great rookie year. He was not a good run defender. I'm going to go with a real dominant run defender in Tavondre Sweat, who's going to be I know they run a 4-3, but he should be ideally he should be there 2-eye or really nose, because Devondre Sweat is 362 pounds. I think the combine will come a little bit down to maybe like 350, but that's still like crazy weight or crazy weight. And his run stop rate was 12.8, and his run defending grade was 92.0, which is number one in the FBS. So go along with that, I mean 15.3 pass rush win rate is really good, because he's my comp for him is like a forklift, because he just get into your pad and just kind of just forklift you and push you up. That's really how he wins against 1-on-1 and 2-on-2. Byron Murphy got a lot of the double teams, which is kind of weird because Sweat is the much bigger. Sweat was a much bigger defensive lineman, but they were so worried about Byron Murphy's pass rushing that they would double team him on the pass rushing sets that allowed Devondre Sweat to get those pressures. And but more importantly, he's a clogger. He's super huge, and the run stuffing ability is definitely there. Gonna have him going to a team that, even out that defense a little bit more. I think the run defending was kind of their weakness. They're not going to go with cornerback. I know they're not, like, they got 2 All-Pros. Trayvon Diggs, I think he was a first-team All-Pro. But then Deron Bland was a first-team All-Pro. Shouldn't have got in it over a guy like Jalen, or he got it over Jalen Johnson and like Charvarius Ward, which is, I don't think he deserved it more than that. The Pro Bowl was fine. I think he deserved the Pro Bowl. But then for the Green Bay Packers, I have 2 kind of selections with them. I would really like them really would want them to go with tackle, and I think that's actually what I'm going to end up doing, because I don't think they don't really have 2 tackles. They really have one guy, or no, not even really, because David Bakhtiari is. Oh, my editing software just opened. They really don't have a guy, because Bakhtiari is going to be gone after this offseason. And then at right tackle, I don't even know who they have. I think they have a rookie at right tackle, like a 3rd round, 4th round guy. But Artemis Mims, the thing about him is the injuries. He does kind of get injured a lot. Or no, not that he gets injured a lot. He didn't play for the back half of the year. Only 297 snaps, and it's just the snap count. He really didn't play a ton for like a stalwart right tackle. Like only not 600, only like 700 in the last 2 years. It'll be interesting to see if he goes in the first round, but the talent is there, and also the size at 6'7", 340. And then for the Green Bay Packers, kind of tackle, I think was their biggest need. I think they could also address it in free agency. For the Buccaneers, they ended up a lot higher than actually I expected. Ended up 26. For them, I am between 2 players, or between 2 selections, actually. I think I would either take edge or linebacker. Devin White and Levante David. Or Devin White is inconsistent, and he plays a little above his level because of Levante David, because Levante David is just a veteran. He's multiple-time Pro Bowler, very solid linebacker. Devin White kind of plays up to him, but once Levante David, who I think is on a 1-year deal, leaves, I don't think they have a real true Mike linebacker. But then at the other edge, or at the other end, I think they also need more pass rushing on the outside, which could be like a guy like Braylon Trice. So that's the interesting thing. I think what I'm going to end up doing is taking Braylon Trice, because it's really between him and Peyton Wilson, in my opinion. And I would much rather the Buccaneers take a guy like Braylon Trice, who I think I'm actually taking super late here. He led the FBS. No, he didn't lead the FBS in pressures in 2022, but he led in pressures this year in 2023 with like 76 or something like that. Pass rushing is good. I don't think as good as guys like Dallas Turner, Leia Tulu, with the 17.0 pass rush win rate. But the thing about him is he's a lot bigger at 274. But even though I would expect him, I didn't watch a ton of film on him yet, but I probably will later on in maybe probably March or early April. He used a lot more pass rush moves than he did power. Even he does have the power. He can overpower a lineman because he is a bigger edge rusher and strong. But it seems like he has a good pass rushing plan, and he has good moves as well for a guy that big. And he doesn't really look 272 in game. He kind of looks more like 250, maybe a high 250 probably. And then for the Cardinals, I'm gonna go with the Brylan Trice pick kind of screwed them because I think that they would have loved to take that. I'm gonna go with cornerback here. I'm gonna go with Rackenstraw Jr. Out of the Missouri cornerbacks, it depends on who is the other Missouri cornerback. I forgot. Rackenstraw, I think, has a potential to go in the first round. I just think that the Cardinals need cornerback regardless. Marco Wilson was their CB2 like the entire year, and they allowed them like a ton of points, especially through the air, and a ton of yards through the air. I think they just need cornerback regardless. And I'll go with Rackenstraw Jr. The thing about him is he kind of allows a lot of not a lot of receptions, because he was targeted a lot more, and in 2022 targets went big time down with only 197 yards allowed. But passer rating hates you if you don't get interceptions and you don't force incompletions. So he does have a 96.9 passer rating, which is league average or slightly above league average. Only played 9 games as well. However, overall solid cornerback as well. Overall solid cornerback. I think that the Cardinals just kind of need that position more than anything. And then for the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to go with wide receiver 2. And I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. They could also take Troy Franklin. It really just depends on what they want. It really depends on what they want as not for their scheme, but because Brian Thomas Jr. is a true deep threat in my opinion. Even though he's 6'4", like I'll show you the official 6'4", like 210. No, 6'4", 205. He's like a straight line or like a comeback curl or an in type of receiver. He's got a not super limited route tree, but he was only put on like go routes, curl routes, comeback routes, in routes, dig routes, like super simple routes that he's not going to try to gain like a year's worth of separation. He's just going to try to win at the catch point or try to beat you on deep balls. And yeah, obviously it worked super well. I think he was tied for first in touchdowns with 17. I think he ended up first, actually. So for the Buffalo Bills, I think that's really nice for Josh Allen to have. Just let it deep, and Brian Thomas Jr. will come back with it. And yeah, I mean, Stephon Diggs has just, the second half of the season, he was just not good. He's getting a little older as well. Khalil Shakir has been the breakout guy in the slot. But they don't really have Gabe Davis is not a consistent receiver at all. For the Chiefs, this is like a guaranteed wide receiver. But I'm a little worried about one thing. If they want to go with Troy Franklin, you're going to be doing the same. You're going to be going in the same direction because his drop rate was 10%, and I think in 2022 it was somewhat similar as well. He's a great on crosser routes, and he's a good deep threat as well, consistent guy. But he'll drop the ball. And he's also a thinner cornerback at 6'3", yeah, but 187. He's a bit of a thinner cornerback. And also the contested catch rate at 36.8. He's a route guy. He's not a jump ball guy. Then let's go to a guy like Dontez Walker. And contested catch rate, super up. The NCAA had a weird thing with him where he was not going to be reinstated or something. So he only had 699 yards, but in 8 games, it's he averaged in games that really mattered. Because I think he might have left one game or something. But basically 90 yards a game and a touchdown. It was 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row when he had a touchdown, 100 yards. It really depends on what kind of guy they want. Adonai Mitchell is also up there. But he was fighting for targets with Xavier Worthy, and he didn't play a ton at Georgia. But he's also super solid. Also drop rate 1%, and he also is 6'4". I think I would lean towards a Donnie Mitchell out of this kind of group. I think that this bracket of like 5 or 4 receivers are in the same like area where Keon Coleman, Donnie Mitchell, Dontez Walker, even Lad McConkey as well. There's like Lad McConkey. I don't know why he's so high. He's like ranked 31. That's ridiculous. He had 483 yards this year. Like, what? But Coleman, Walker, Donnie Mitchell are all guys that are super talented. Like they really could be like a bona fide wide receiver 2 at the NFL level. But like the production was not all super there. They missed a few games here and there. They never had 1,000 yards in their career. But these guys are super talented guys that could be great at the NFL level. And for a guy like a Donnie Mitchell, he's not going to drop the ball. He's good as a contested receiver. He has a super high vertical. And I think that's what the Chiefs need. That's really what they need. They've got Rashid Rice, who's their consistent, down to down. He'll get past the sticks. He's great after the catch. And then you got a Donnie Mitchell, who's more of your outside X receiver. And then for the Lions, I would think this is, I don't know, it's a little early to go cornerback with guys like Kamari Lassiter. Like, I think Kamari Lassiter's good, but he doesn't play the ball. He doesn't really play the ball. Only 1 interception that was in his freshman year. It depends, because interior defensive linemen, like, this is also where I think the interior defensive line class falls off after T'Vondre Sweat. So Lions are in a bit of an interesting situation. I would go with, let's go with Chris Braswell. I'm going to go with Chris Braswell out of Alabama. The crazy thing about him was he was a bit more productive, even the Dallas Turner, higher pass rush win rate, better run stop rate. Even though also, like, I don't also think he's a great run defender either on the outside, even though he's a bit bigger than Dallas Turner. Not as good as pass rush moves, but he had more sacks. He had more pressures. So I think Braswell is underrated because Dallas Turner is, like, overshadowing him, even though, like, Braswell is more productive than him. And then for the Lions, I guess they don't necessarily need, like, another edge. They've got Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, was really good in his rookie year. He had 10 sacks. But they really didn't have an edge to once he went out, and it was really Aiden Hutchinson doing all the work. And 101 pressures is really phenomenal. He'll probably be an All-Pro. Maybe not All-Pro, but probably I think he was a second-team All-Pro this year anyways. I might be wrong on that. For the 49ers, I'm pretty much only taking offensive tackle. I forgot who's the next right tackle. It's not Grant Burton. The next best right tackle is Kingsley. No, Sumatai played left tackle this year. Tyler Guyton is the next best right tackle on the board. I think they would have loved, like, Artemis Mims. This is a difficult one to get. Maybe I'll go with an interesting pick. I'm going to go with Carmen Kinchins here. Carmen Kinchins will be the cornerback, or will be the safety next to Tanaloa Hufanga, where it's Carmen Kinchins is just like purely he's a boom, or he's a pick or a touchdown kind of guy. He is all right in coverage. He's this and that, but he's more of he's a production safety. In 2022, he had 6 sacks. In 2023, he had 5 to go with 4 incompletions. And I don't think they need. I think that if they got, the fun thing is if they even got more forced turnovers, even though they have like Fred Warner, they'd Trevarius Ward forced a ton of turnovers, like Nick Bosa. Let's just keep on adding defense here. I really would love them to go with right tackle with Artemis Mims if he's on the board. But I'm not going to force, in these mock drafts, I'm not going to force a true left tackle, and just like, oh, you'll move to right tackle. In reality, that happens a ton of the time. But the last pick I'm going to go with is Troy Franklin. I've already went down a little bit of him. The drop issue is a little bit there, but the Ravens are not going to have, who are predicted to win the Super Bowl, actually. The Ravens are not going to have OBJ next year, probably. Like, they're not gonna, why would they ever sign him to another 20 million? And then they got Zay Flowers, who I think is their wide receiver 1, and then add Troy Franklin, who is again another deep threat, another slot guy who's going to be great on crossers and be good on the sideline and good catching, good ability there as well. That's going to do it for my mock draft 1.0. We only have 4 teams left to actually find out where they're selecting. But these are the general guys that I think are going to go in the first round. We'll see by the end of the mock draft timeline until the actual draft comes to be. But that's going to do it for my mock draft. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Follow my Substack in the description. Follow my TikTok. Follow my Instagram. Do everything, all that good stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.